We begin with breaking news here at 5 o'clock. Multnomah County is already scrapping a controversial plan to give out drug supplies to fentanyl addicts. In the last hour, County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson put a halt to it. This plan first came to light late on Friday. The county wanted to start handing out clean tinfoil, pipes, and straws to drug users. The health department argued handing out these drug supplies is an effort to save lives and reach more people struggling with addiction.
They also argued that smoking the drugs is safer than injecting with needles. Critics, including Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, pushed back, saying it would only make this crisis worse. We talked to him just before the county decided to do a 180.
What the county should be doing is providing more treatment. That's what the public overwhelmingly says they want. That's what people on the streets say they overwhelmingly need. And instead, they're being offered up crack pipes and tinfoil.
Can you explain how this is intended to save lives? Because I think a lot of people see this and think this is just enabling the crisis.
Yeah. Well, what we know from decades of harm reduction research is that when we're able to build a bridge with people where they're at in terms of their drug use, we are able to build relationships with them and refer them to other services.
Okay, that was the county public health director there. In a statement, the county chair blamed the health department for moving forward with this program without what she called proper implementation protocols. We will update you on this as we learn more. Let's head to the Cascades now, where we are keeping an eye on a fire that's been growing for the last couple of days. This is a live look from our Timberline sky camera pointed in the direction of the Boulder Lake fire. We have seen smoke at times. The plume does not appear to be visible, though, right now. The fire has charged some 160 acres with multiple campgrounds under evacuation orders just to the southeast of Mount Hood. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. Officials say the winds have proven challenging today. We'll check in with Matt on the forecast in just a moment. But first, to meteorologist Joe Ranieri at Timberline Lodge. Joe, any word on the cause of this fire?
Well, David and Laurel, no word yet on a cause, and that fire has been burning just southeast of Mount Hood since Saturday afternoon. Now, so far this afternoon, we haven't seen much of a smoke plume, just burning on the other side of that ridge out there. But over the next couple of days, crews are going to be dealing with very dry and windy conditions, and toward the end of the week, we're going to be looking at some warmer weather as well. But when this fire broke out on Saturday afternoon, about a half a dozen campgrounds were forced to evacuate. Those campgrounds remain closed tonight. With the help of air support and ground support, crews have been working to contain the boulder fire burning southeast of Mount Hood.
Some of them going direct against the fire, and others are scouting the roads looking for secondary containment lines.
Making those containment lines has already proven to be challenging.
So these are mature trees, some dense forests, large standing trees, snags, down woody debris, a lot of fuels in the area, and steep and rugged terrain.
Even the forest roads that lead up to the flames aren't easy to get to.
There are lots of roads that run through the area, some more improved than others grown over.
Shortly after it broke out, several campsites were put on level 3 Go Now evacuation notice. Those camps, including Boulder Lake Campground and Bonnie Meadows Campground, are still closed because of the fire.
Got pretty close and then hit a sign that said the road was closed with a handwritten note saying that there was a fire.
Nikki Clark and her friend were planning on staying at Bonnie Meadows Campground, but quickly had to change plans.
We were definitely surprised. Everything seems moist and oxygenated, and then we see this sign that says fire.
Luckily, they were able to switch gears.
We have a little app, CalTopo app, that shows the fire incidences, and we're like, yeah, the next ridge over, there's fire. So we paid attention to that, and found another spot.
As more campers start heading out here for summer getaways,
be vigilant when using fire, anything that generates sparks, motorized equipment in the backcountry. Just remain cautious.
Crews want campers to be extra safe as we start to head into the more extreme heat of summer. Now, David and Laurel, one spokesperson I spoke with earlier this afternoon told me they're hoping to launch an airplane with infrared capabilities to better get an idea of just how big this fire is. But right now, they tell me it's right around 160 acres. Reporting live outside Timberline Lodge tonight, Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
Thank you, Joe. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino now tracking fire conditions around the Cascades. And Matt, you could hear the wind blowing in Joe's live shot there.
It's blowing about 10 to 20 miles an hour where Joe is at Timberline Lodge right now. And the winds will be coming and going as they do, and highly terrain dependent in the Cascades, places like where the Boulder fire is named, of course, after Boulder Lake, which it's super close to. It's actually between Boulder Lake and Little Boulder Lake. In that general direction, as Joe mentioned. I could see the smoke from this fire from the Dalles yesterday afternoon as I was driving through, but it seems to have settled down a bit. It's cooler, 56 degrees up at 6,000 feet at Timberline Lodge in the Mount Hood National Forest. So that's definitely helping. Whenever you get cooler weather and higher humidity, that's always a good thing in terms of fire. The winds are up a bit, but we're going to stay cool for a couple of days. We've got the marine layer on the west side. The problem with that, really the only problem, is the cooler weather on the west side, still warm on the east side. That's what fuels those strong winds that we are hearing in Joe's live shot. We'll have again during the afternoon tomorrow, but mainly in the afternoon. Once the sun angle drops, the wind should back off a bit overnight tonight. It's going to stay clear. It's going to stay dry. Humidity will be low, and then it will get hotter at the end of the week. We'll talk a bit later about how hot. Guys?
Thanks so much, Matt. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about the Tunnel 5 fire in the gorge. It's now some 80% contained. Operations there winding down, and residents who evacuated finally returning home. One winemaker who runs a vineyard near White Salmon tells us she was grateful that her property was spared. Julia Bailey Goldstein has run Loop de Loop wine since 2020. That year, she says, nearly her entire harvest was ruined by wildfire smoke. Now, compounds in the smoke combine with the sugars in the grapes, leaving the wine tasting somewhere between a campfire and an ashtray. In other words, not great this season. Fortunately, it seems the fire happened early enough that the grapes will not be impacted, but Bailey Goldstein said she's already preparing for the future.
And we are acutely aware of the fact that this is probably our new reality, and probably we'll have I hope just a couple vintages every decade.
Yeah, the winery is hoping to welcome guests back starting this weekend.
Fentanyl-related overdose deaths are rising in Oregon. Lawmakers passed a bill to expand access to naloxone, which can immediately reverse the effects of an opioid overdose. Keep in mind, it's now waiting on the governor's signature. So in the meantime, let's bring in Evan Watson in the newsroom with a closer look at this. Evan?
Laurel, the idea is Narcan should become much more prevalent throughout the state, helping save lives. But how will this work in practice? There are still some key questions.
I distribute Narcan.
Ellen Worship is determined to get Narcan just about everywhere people go.
It's really easy to use.
Bars, restaurants, clubs, coffee shops, stores.
Your medicine is held right there in that pink part of the vial.
Take your pick.
Thumb on the bottom, plunge, and then wait 3 minutes. The goal was mass accessibility to Narcan in spaces you wouldn't necessarily see it.
Her organization, Project Red, and the Alano Club of Portland have distributed free Narcan to 160 businesses and 56 schools since August.
More often than not, what I tell people is it's so much better to have Narcan and never need to use it than to need Narcan and not have it.
Does that hit home with people?
I think so. It's convinced a lot of people who didn't necessarily want to take Narcan to grab a box of Narcan when we've done distribution.
There's little doubt about the need. Narcan is an opioid overdose reversal medication. In Multnomah County, fentanyl overdose deaths have increased from 26 in 2019 to 209 in 2022. In Salem, Oregon lawmakers overwhelmingly passed House Bill 2395, declaring the fentanyl crisis a statewide emergency. The bill covers a lot. For one, fentanyl test strips would no longer be considered drug paraphernalia.
Being able to make an informed choice about what drugs you're putting into your body will reduce the number of overdose deaths that we are seeing, and how could that not be a good thing?
The bill allows public spaces and businesses to stock Narcan and make sure there's no liability for anyone, like a school teacher, who administers the drug when they suspect an overdose. In short, there aren't negative side effects, so when in doubt, don't hesitate to try and help.
Is that a relief for you to be able to say, once this gets to that point of like when you're talking to people, hey, you're not liable for this?
Sure, and I think this removes a lot of the fear that people will feel like, do I jump in and help? Is this a moment where I step in?
But there are still questions about arguably the biggest part of the bill, getting more Narcan out to Oregonians. The Oregon Health Authority is allowed to purchase Narcan in bulk, providing the medication at a discount or no cost to organizations statewide. Currently, the OHA's Harm Reduction Clearinghouse project is using millions of dollars from an opioid settlement to buy and send Narcan to community organizations. The intent is to use this bill to get life-saving Narcan to all sorts of new places, like libraries, parks, transit, and schools. But the bill doesn't include explicit funding for this. Aside from an existing application process, it's not clear how the state will entice new organizations to buy Narcan without subsidizing the cost. Organizations like Project Red can buy a kit of Narcan spray for around $43. Worship says if Oregon wants to get Narcan in more places, lowering that cost will go a long way.
You know, I do believe that, especially with the government purchasing and helping with that purchasing and giving bulk amounts, that we can start to see a reduction in the pricing of that Narcan. And, you know, that would be amazing.
Worship says addressing substance use is challenging and complex, but it's encouraging to her to meet people who want to be ready to respond to any potential overdoses they see.
Now, I get more requests every day for individuals who want to carry Narcan. I think that's a really incredible sign of where we're at.
About 90% of both the Oregon and House and the Oregon Senate voted in favor of this Narcan package. The Oregon Health Authority tells me supporting an opioid antagonist purchasing program for private entities would require, quote, additional staff and contracting resources. But it also says reducing the price of Narcan is a goal of its comprehensive statewide approach. So there's more to watch closely here. Laurel.
And we'll see what happens when the governor, if she signs it or not. Thank you, Evan.